Right now, at this very moment, something is moving in your favor, even if you cannot see it, even if nothing around you appears to have changed, even if doubt is whispering that it is not working. There are forces set in motion the instant you decided to believe differently. The moment you assumed a new outcome, reality began adjusting. Paths started shifting. People began playing their parts. Events quietly rearranged themselves. What feels like delay is not denial. What feels like silence is not absence. What feels like stillness is not stagnation. There is movement behind the scenes. And if you can remain faithful, if you can persist just a little longer, you will witness what was being prepared for you all along. So before you give up, before you question, before you fall back into the old story, listen closely. There is a dimension of movement that exists beyond your physical senses, a realm where decisions are made, paths are arranged, and outcomes are determined long before they appear in visible form. What you call reality is not born in the outer world. It is projected into it. Every circumstance you encounter was first conceived in consciousness. The outer world is the shadow. The inner world is the substance. When you understand this, you stop being disturbed by appearances because you realize that what you see is only yesterday's thinking made visible. The unseen movement of reality begins the moment you assume something to be true. The instant you accept an idea and feel it as real, you set creative power into motion. There is no delay in the unseen. The delay only appears in the visible world because physical manifestation follows its own appointed rhythm. Just as a film must pass through frames before reaching the screen, your assumption must move through unseen channels before crystallizing into fact. But make no mistake, it is moving. Most people abandon their desire because they believe nothing is happening. They look for immediate confirmation, and finding none, they return to doubt. Yet what they fail to recognize is that the most powerful processes in life are invisible. You cannot see the wind, yet you witness its effects. You cannot see gravity, yet you observe its law. In the same way, you cannot see the rearrangement of events taking place on your behalf, but you will experience their results. Behind the scenes, conversations are occurring. Circumstances are adjusting. Timing is aligning with precision you could never calculate. What seems random is actually ordered. What appears coincidental is perfectly placed. Reality is not chaotic, it is responsive. It responds to your dominant state of being. When you shift internally, the outer world begins the quiet task of reflecting that shift. Understand this clearly. The unseen does not require your supervision. It requires your consistency. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the work begins. Your role is not to force the outcome, but to remain loyal to the assumption. Doubt interferes because it attempts to reverse what has already been set in motion. Faith stabilizes the movement. Persistence strengthens it. Imagine planting a seed and then digging it up each day to check its progress. You would destroy the very growth you are trying to observe. So it is with your assumption. Once planted in consciousness, it must be left undisturbed. Your calm expectancy nourishes it. Your repeated acceptance deepens its roots. And beneath the surface of visible reality, structures are forming that will support its arrival. The unseen movement of reality also operates through what may appear as ordinary events. You may receive an unexpected message. You may feel prompted to visit a certain place. You may encounter someone seemingly by chance. These are not accidents. They are links in a chain of perfectly arranged incidents leading you to fulfillment. You are being guided across a bridge you did not consciously design, but unconsciously activated. Often the movement intensifies just before manifestation. Old conditions may surface one final time. Circumstances may appear unchanged. But this is only the fading echo of a former state. Do not mistake it for permanence. When you remain faithful to your new assumption, the old reality must dissolve. It has no choice but to yield. Trust the unseen more than the seen. What you see reflects where you have been. What you assume determines where you are going. The invisible is always more powerful than the visible because it is the cause, not the effect. When you truly grasp this, you stop reacting to temporary appearances and start living from inner certainty. Right now, whether you perceive it or not, reality is shifting. The unseen is active. The process is unfolding. Stay steady. Remain aligned. What has begun in consciousness will complete itself in form. Persistence is the quiet power that turns possibility into fact. It is not force. It is not struggle. It is the steady refusal to abandon what you have accepted as true within yourself. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, creation begins. But it is persistence in that assumption that allows it to harden into reality. Without persistence, you plant seeds and then uproot them with doubt. With persistence, you allow what has been set in motion to complete its appointed course. To persist means to remain loyal to your new identity. It means you no longer entertain the old story, even when circumstances attempt to present it again. The outer world will often echo past beliefs before it reflects your new state. If you react to these echoes, you revive them. If you remain unmoved, you let them fade. Persistence is choosing the unseen truth over visible contradiction. Many misunderstand persistence as repetition of words, but repetition without feeling is empty. True persistence is returning again and again to the feeling that it is already done. It is thinking from the end, not of the end. It is responding to life as the one who already possesses what was once desired. When your reactions change, your world must change. Reality mirrors identity, not effort. There may be moments when doubt arises. This does not mean you have failed. It simply means you are transitioning from one state to another. When doubt appears, you do not fight it violently. You gently return to your chosen assumption. You remind yourself of who you are now. Persistence is calm correction, not emotional strain. Understand that every assumption, if sustained, must objectify itself. This is law. It does not require perfection. It requires dominance. The state you return to most often becomes your dwelling place. If you dwell in fulfillment more than in fear, fulfillment becomes natural. If you dwell in certainty more than in questioning, certainty solidifies into experience. The outer world tests your persistence, not to defeat you, but to confirm your stability. Appearances may temporarily contradict your desire. Time may seem to pass without visible change. Others may express opinions that challenge your faith. But none of these hold creative power unless you accept them. Your inner agreement is what gives life to any condition. Withdraw that agreement from the old and place it firmly in the new. Persistence also refines your self-concept. Each time you choose to remain faithful, you strengthen the identity of the one who already has. You begin to think naturally from abundance instead of lack. You react from confidence instead of insecurity. This shift feels subtle at first, but it is profound. You are no longer trying to get something, you are becoming someone. Do not measure persistence by how long it takes to see results. Measure it by how quickly you return to the end when distracted. The faster you return, the stronger your conviction becomes. Over time, the new state feels less like effort and more like truth. What once required discipline becomes your automatic response. There is great power in quiet endurance. Loud declarations fade, but steady assumption transforms. When you persist, you are declaring to reality that you will not settle for less than what you have accepted as yours. And reality, having no will of its own, must conform. Stay in the assumption. Return to it daily. Think from it. Feel from it. Live from it. Persistence is not waiting, it is occupying. And what you occupy consistently must eventually be expressed in the world around you. Faith begins where the senses end. It is easy to believe when you can see movement, when signs appear, when circumstances visibly improve. But true faith is the ability to remain inwardly certain even when the outer world offers no confirmation. It is choosing the unseen reality over visible facts. It is understanding that what is felt within carries more authority than what is observed without. The physical world is always a record of past assumptions. It is the echo of states you once occupied. If you judge your progress only by what is currently visible, you are measuring yesterday's consciousness. Faith requires a deeper awareness, the recognition that the inner shift precedes the outer manifestation. When you change within, the outer world must follow, but it follows in sequence, not instantly. To live by faith is to trust the invisible cause rather than the visible effect. It is to know that once you have accepted something as true in consciousness, it is already accomplished in a dimension beyond sight. The delay between assumption and manifestation is not uncertainty, it is transition. During this interval, reality is rearranging itself to match your new state. Doubt arises when you grant more power to appearances than to your imagination. You see the same circumstances and conclude nothing has changed. But faith understands that change begins where the eye cannot reach. Just as the foundation of a building is laid beneath the ground before the structure rises, your desire is secured in the unseen before it becomes visible. Faith is not blind belief in something outside yourself. It is trust in your own creative authority. It is knowing that your inner acceptance determines your outer experience. When you feel the wish fulfilled and remain faithful to that feeling, you are aligning with a law that never fails. You are no longer begging for results. You are expecting them. This kind of faith is calm. It is not anxious or desperate. It does not constantly seek reassurance. It rests in the conviction that what has been assumed is already done. Even if the world appears unchanged, faith does not waver. It understands that appearances are temporary reflections, not permanent truths. There may be moments when circumstances seem to contradict your desire. You may encounter setbacks, delays, or unexpected turns. Faith does not interpret these as failure. It sees them as part of a larger orchestration. What appears as an obstacle may be a redirection. What seems like rejection may be protection. The unseen intelligence arranging your fulfillment often works through paths you could not have predicted. To strengthen faith, return to the feeling of completion. Close your eyes and inhabit the reality where your desire is already fulfilled. Let it feel natural. Let it feel familiar. The more real it becomes within, the less dependent you are on external proof. Eventually, you reach a point where you no longer need signs because you have become certain. Faith beyond physical evidence transforms your relationship with time. You stop asking, when, and start living from now. You understand that fulfillment is not in the future. It is a present state of consciousness. When you occupy that state consistently, time simply becomes the medium through which it reveals itself. Trust the unseen. Trust the process. Trust the shift you have made within. The visible world is slower, but it is obedient. It must reflect the state you persist in. When you choose faith over fear, certainty over doubt, and assumption over appearance, you activate a power that cannot fail. Remain steady. What you have accepted internally is already real. The physical world is simply catching up. To lie from the end is to occupy the state of fulfillment before the world confirms it. It is not pretending. It is not forcing yourself to deny what you see. It is choosing to identify with the version of yourself who already has what was once desired. When you live from the end, you are no longer chasing a result. You are expressing an identity. Most people live from appearances. They look at their bank account and feel poor. They look at their relationship and feel unloved. They look at their circumstances and conclude limitation. But appearances are effects, not causes. If you allow them to define your state, you remain bound to repeating them. Living from the end requires a reversal of this habit. Instead of letting the world tell you who you are, you decide who you are and allow the world to reflect that decision. When you assume the end, you think from it. You do not think of it as something distant. If your desire were already fulfilled, how would you feel? How would you react? How would you carry yourself? These questions shift you into identification. The goal is not to imagine occasionally, but to dwell there mentally so often that it becomes natural. Despite appearances, you remain inwardly aligned. This is where many falter. They feel fulfilled in imagination, but the moment they encounter contradictory evidence, they return to the old state. They check for signs. They measure progress. They react emotionally to temporary conditions. In doing so, they re-enter the state of wanting rather than having. Living from the end means you stop seeking validation from the outer world. You no longer ask, is it working? Because you know it is done. You no longer interpret delays as denial. You understand that the outer world moves according to the inner shift, not the other way around. If you have changed within, the outcome is inevitable. This does not mean you ignore reality in a reckless way. It means you interpret reality differently. If something appears unfavorable, you refuse to give it final authority. You remind yourself that it is only a reflection of a past state. You do not fight it. You outgrow it by remaining faithful to the new identity. Living from the end transforms your reactions. When challenges arise, you respond with calm instead of panic. When opportunities appear, you accept them with confidence instead of surprise. Your behavior begins to match the fulfilled version of yourself. This alignment sends a powerful message to reality. This is who I am now. There is also a quiet joy in living from the end. You feel gratitude before the manifestation. You feel relief before the evidence. You feel security before the confirmation. These emotions are not forced. They arise naturally when you truly accept that it is done. And these feelings are creative. They impress the subconscious and accelerate expression. Appearances may attempt to persuade you otherwise. They may whisper that nothing has changed. But if you have shifted internally, everything has changed. The outer world simply requires time to reorganize around your new state. During this interval, your stability is essential. Each time you remain faithful despite contradiction, you strengthen the new reality. Living from the end is mastery of identity. You are no longer a person hoping for change. You are a person embodying it. You are not waiting for permission from circumstances. You are declaring fulfillment through consciousness. Remain in the end, think from it, feel from it, act from it. Appearances will adjust because they have no choice but to mirror the state you consistently occupy. Once you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, a sequence begins. It may be invisible at first. It may appear ordinary, but it is precise, deliberate, and unstoppable. This sequence is the natural chain of events that leads you from where you are to the realization of what you have accepted within. It does not require your conscious design. It unfolds automatically the moment you change states. Many believe they must figure out the how. They attempt to plan every step, control every outcome, and predict every turn. But the path between assumption and manifestation is not built by logic. It is constructed by law. When you occupy a new state, life reorganizes itself to match it. People, circumstances, opportunities, and even seeming obstacles arrange themselves into a perfect progression. This progression often feels natural, almost too natural to notice. You may feel an impulse to take a certain action. You may receive a call you did not expect. You may encounter a delay that redirects you somewhere else. These moments are not random. They are links in a bridge forming beneath your feet. The bridge of incidents does not always look pleasant. Sometimes it appears as inconvenience. Sometimes it feels like disruption. Occasionally it may resemble loss. But what you cannot see is that each event is guiding you into alignment with your fulfilled state. What seems like a setback may actually be positioning. What feels like rejection may be redirection. The bridge does not always match your preferences, but it always matches your assumption. When you understand this, you stop resisting the middle. You no longer panic when things shift unexpectedly. Instead, you trust that every movement is part of a larger orchestration. The end has already been accepted in consciousness. The bridge is simply the means of arrival. The most powerful aspect of this bridge is that it unfolds without strain. You do not force it into existence. You do not manipulate every piece. Your only task is to remain faithful to the end. The bridge constructs itself naturally from your sustained assumption. As long as you do not abandon the state, the path continues forming. There will be moments when you cannot see how current events could possibly lead to your desired outcome. The connection may seem unclear, but the mind is limited in its ability to calculate possibilities. The unseen intelligence arranging your fulfillment is not limited. It weaves circumstances together in ways you could not consciously design. Often, the final stages of the bridge feel ordinary. The manifestation may arrive through what appears to be a simple conversation, a routine decision, or a common opportunity. You may look back and realize that everything led perfectly to this point. What once felt uncertain now appears inevitable. Impatience interrupts awareness of the bridge. When you demand immediate evidence, you overlook the subtle movements already taking place. When you remain calm and observant, you begin to notice how naturally events unfold in your favor. Even challenges begin to reveal hidden advantages. Trust the unfolding. The bridge is forming now, not tomorrow, not someday, but in this present moment. Every assumption you hold steady strengthens its structure. Every time you choose faith over fear, you reinforce its direction. Every refusal to return to the old state keeps you moving forward across it. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to remain aligned with the destination. The end determines the means. And because you have accepted the end within, the means are already being arranged without. Walk calmly. Stay faithful. What feels uncertain today will soon reveal itself as the perfect sequence that brought you exactly where you were meant to stand. You were never waiting for your desire. Your desire was aligning itself to the version of you who could sustain it. The unseen has been working this entire time. Every assumption you held, every moment you chose faith over fear, every time you refused to return to the old identity, it mattered. It moved something. It shifted something. Nothing is wasted in consciousness. The world you experience tomorrow is being shaped by what you are loyal to today. If you remain loyal to fulfillment, fulfillment must appear. If you remain faithful to completion, completion must manifest. Do not measure progress by appearances. Measure it by your inner stability. If you feel different, it is done. If you think differently, it is done. If you react differently, it is done. Let the unseen finish what it has already started. Keep going. Stay faithful. Remain in the end. What is forming for you now will soon stand before you as undeniable fact. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. Let it settle. Let it strengthen your conviction. Thank you for choosing to invest in your inner world. Thank you for persisting. Thank you for being someone who refuses to settle for appearances. If this spoke to you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs the reminder that things are working out, even when they cannot yet see it. Your reality is responding, and something beautiful is unfolding for you right now.